For a session presented by AWS, please welcome the worldwide technical leader of travel and hospitality solutions at AWS, Clare Ward, and the Chief Marketing Officer at Choice Hotels, Noha Abdalla, in discussion with SkiftX Research Editor, Dan Marcec.
I'm going to swivel this chair back a little bit. All right, Noha, Clare, thank you so much for joining us today. Great to have you on stage. So Skift and AWS have partnered in each of the last 4 years on a research study about digital transformation in travel and hospitality. And one of the coolest things about doing a study over that period of time is that we've really been able to observe this mindset shift in terms of how travel companies are looking at tech investments. So Clare, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What does that shift look like, and how are companies really rethinking the way that they look at technology across their organizations?
Thanks, Dan. It's great to be here today. And talking to a lot of you, a lot of our customers, we hear an awful lot about you rethinking your digital transformation strategies. I think the question that I asked myself is, why? And something my colleague Stephen Anderson, who's right here today, said recently is today is the slowest pace of innovation we're ever likely to experience again. Now, how can that be? But if you look at generative AI and how that's evolved over the last 12 months, I think that's certainly a case of the pace of innovation is only likely to accelerate. Now, for most organizations, the challenge that brings is culture shift. And innovation can no longer, it's not a program or a project. Innovation needs to be a way of being, and ways of working need to change. And one of those ways of working that is transitioning is organizations are moving to a customer-first mindset. And that makes a lot of sense to me. If you look at the problems through the eyes of your customer, it starts to help you to think about, what do I need to solve those problems? What data, what people, what skills, and obviously what technology? And reflecting on all of that, I think one of the things that we can all do is look at the foundations that we have to enable innovation. Customers demand it, shareholders demand it, to create great experiences and shareholder value. So do we have the right culture, the right mechanisms, the right ways of working to be truly innovative?
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent illustration of kind of the theory. So what about putting it into practice? So what I mean by that, what are the tools that we need to break down some of those organizational silos and start thinking about, as you said so eloquently, innovation as a way of being? How do we implement that across an organization?
Sure. So look, the cloud is definitely a foundation for innovation. And just talking about silos, organizational silos, and data silos, I bet most people in the audience here today have experienced that. If we look back at the journey that organizations have taken to the cloud, that often starts with the obvious benefits that everyone wants to achieve, whether that's cost savings or agility or speed to market or going global. And that quite often transitions into thinking about the benefits you can get from data in the cloud, both storage, accessibility, security, and the ability to analyze at speed. What we've seen from the Digital Transformation Report in the last 2 years is that investment priorities are shifting to a customer-first mindset in areas like customer service and customer engagement and customer retention. So I have a little story I wanted to share. I was talking to an executive from a hotel resort company recently. My hometown's Las Vegas, so this just resonated with me. So imagine you're checking into a hotel, and in your loyalty account, you've put that you're vegetarian. And after check-in, you're walking to your room, and you get a text on your phone from the loyalty team saying, here's our vegetarian restaurant, can we book you a table? What a super experience. Your next thought is, you know what, I'm going to just run up to my room, I've got a couple of emails I want to check, perhaps I'll take them up on that offer. So you get to your room, you open your laptop, and the first thing you see at the top of the list is an email from sales and marketing about the steakhouse. And that's a reality for many companies. And it's not a great experience, but what causes that experience is data in different silos across many different systems. And what this company told me is how they use the cloud to solve that problem. First of all, by collating and cleaning their data and having a single source of truth about the customers. Secondly, thinking about the communication tools they were using. How do they prioritize and sequence those messages to create the best customer impact? And then thirdly, the speed to market, they could just solve those problems. So thinking of that story, I just thought, what a great story, I wanted to share it today. But another company that is also a great innovator is here with us today is Choice Hotels. They were one of the first companies to move their data centers to the cloud, and I'm just very excited that we've got Noha here today to tell us about her story.
Well, perfect segue. Thank you, Claire, and Noha, obviously, like I said, great to have you. So tell us a little bit about Choice's cloud migration. And to Claire's point about thinking about your customers, you really have a kind of dual customer sets with your franchisees and your guests. So how did migrating to the cloud across the organization change the way that you're looking at some of those processes and outcomes?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me here. I joined Choice Hotels about a year ago, and I was very fortunate to arrive and find that we were one of the first companies, major hotel companies, to commit to moving all of our data to the cloud with AWS. That just makes my job as a marketer that much easier. But if you think about Choice Hotels' journey, we've really focused on making sure that we deliver for all of our guests and our franchisees, so both of those two customer sets. And we started this innovation journey really on behalf of our franchisees. We were one of the first hotel companies to build and deliver a central reservation system as well as a central property management system for our franchisees, all enabled by the cloud. And most recently, we rolled out the first mobile-enabled revenue management system for our franchisees. So what this looks like is that we're taking in millions of data points every day in order to make recommendations for the exact hotel, exact room, and guest. And this system allows us to make over 100,000 more recommendations than the system that it replaced. So it's that speed of putting together all of that data and making those intelligent recommendations that really differentiates us. We've also been able to leverage it on behalf of our customers. And so if you take a look at our website, and when a guest comes to our website, we're taking in thousands of pieces of data to determine what we know about that guest and how might we serve up the results of that search that they do and which hotel should they see first, second, and third. That's all enabled by the cloud and allows us to make those decisions in real time.
That's great, and that is such a good description of how cloud is touching every piece of the business. And I think for the people in the room, they might not think, oh yeah, my job, need the cloud. That might seem a little bit too technical, but you're seeing the results and you're seeing the tangible benefits of the technology, and that's really great. No, of course you're in marketing, so I did want to pull up a slide on the screen to show some stats from our recent research report. And what they show, I'm not going to read out the whole thing, but look at these numbers, which are relatively large in and of themselves. But what they show is that marketing executives were 10 percentage points higher than the overall average in terms of prioritizing customer engagement retention and saying that digital transformation was very important to their overall business. So my question to you is, what's happening in marketing? Why is there such an emphasis on digital and on cloud? And ultimately, what does that help you do with respect to personalization and to the title of the session, using data to deepen your customer relationships?
Yeah, so the job of a digital marketer today is not easy, right? We have all these disparate sources of data that we've got to make sense of. We've got changing privacy laws. We have the deprecation of cookies. And then we've got executives coming to us and saying, and how are you using AI? And I would argue that we shouldn't be asking that question. We should be asking, what customer problem do we need to solve, and how might AI help us solve that problem? So we should definitely start with that as opposed to using AI as that starting point. We know that our customers' expectations are changing very rapidly. They expect us to know them, especially if we have a loyalty program that gives us more certainty and more data about them. And so we've really been on this journey, as many of you have been, to further personalize the customer journey on behalf of our customer. One thing that we pride ourselves on is really making sure that in channels where we might know the customer one-to-one, we should be personalizing that experience one-to-one. In another channel where we might not be exactly sure who that customer is, but we have enough signals to be able to put them into a segment, like parents with kids, then let's serve up that experience in a more personalized way, even if we can't be one-to-one. I think what's critical to all of this is that we've got a system in place for identity resolution, and that's been a challenge, but one that we've been working on with our partners at AWS. So using their clean room solution, the marketing cloud, in addition to being part of a beta around the unified profile of the traveler, we've been able to move along in our journey of customer identity resolution and not just get more certain about who we're talking to, but also pull in disparate pieces of data. So whether it be first-party data or third-party data from Amazon or from partners like Neustar, we're able to get a more complete picture of who we're talking to, and that allows us to enact more sophisticated campaigns and offers to our customers.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it really brings it full circle to what Claire was talking about. It's a vivid illustration of how that can actually work in practice. I love it. So we've got time for another question, but I do want to pull up a slide that has a QR code for the report. We've been talking about this data. We've been talking about this research. Please, scan it, get the report, get lots of data, insights. But before we go, so Noha, I know that you have a lot of insights to share, but what's one key takeaway you can share with the audience about your journey that they can take away, whether they're in marketing or in any other department across the company?
Yeah, I would say that it can be really daunting to think about all the data that you might have and all the data ways you want to use that on behalf of the customer. I would say perfection is the enemy of the good, and you should start somewhere. So start with some use cases and figure out how might you pilot your way to continuing to innovate in that customer experience.
That's great. And Claire, from AWS perspective, you work with hundreds of customers in travel and hospitality every year. What's a takeaway, as concisely as you can from that level of experience? What can you share with the crowd here in terms of one thing that they should think about going forward?
Sure. I mean, I would say the cloud's an enabler for digital transformation and innovation, but don't take it from me. I saw a survey recently from a company, APQC. They surveyed over 300 customers, and specifically relating to Noah's point around customer experience, the stat was that the customers that used AWS services with a customer data platform saw their CSATs increase by 12.6%. Now, 12.6% says to me that definitely the cloud's an enabler for digital transformation and innovation. Thank you, Dan.
All right. Well, thank you both for your time. It's been great to have you, and everyone else have a wonderful rest of your day today at Skift Global Forum.